The shuttle was falling apart around him. Park Do-hyun held tight to his seat as fire and smoke filled the small ship. Warning lights flashed red everywhere. The computer voice kept saying the same thing again and again. Impact in 30 seconds. Impact in 30 seconds. He had been on a simple mission. Fly over the jungle moon. Take pictures. Go home. But something had shot him down. He did not see what it was. One moment, he was flying steady. The next moment, his engines were dead, and he was dropping like a stone. Do-hyun was a soldier of the United Earth Defense Corps. He had trained for many things. Crashing on an unknown moon was one of them. He grabbed his survival pack and held it close to his chest. He checked his sidearm on his belt. Then he closed his eyes and waited. The crash was loud and violent. Metal screamed as the shuttle hit trees and then ground. Do-hyun was thrown around like a toy. His head hit something hard. Then everything went black. When he woke up, he was lying in wet dirt. The shuttle was in pieces around him. Strange purple plants surrounded him on all sides. The sky above was orange and pink, with two small suns setting in the distance. He was not on Earth. He was not anywhere he knew. His left arm hurt badly. He looked down and saw blood on his sleeve. A piece of metal had cut him during the crash. He used his good hand to open his survival pack. Inside he found bandages, water, food pills, and a small knife. He wrapped his arm tight to stop the bleeding. Do-hyun stood up slowly. His legs were shaking, but they worked. He looked around at the strange forest. The trees had silver bark and purple leaves. Small glowing insects flew through the air like tiny stars. Everything smelled sweet, like flowers after rain. He needed to find shelter. He needed to send a message to Earth, but his radio was destroyed in the crash. He was alone on this moon with no way to call for help. He started walking. Every step hurt, but he kept going. A soldier does not give up. A soldier survives. After walking for a long time, he heard something. Voices. They were soft and musical, like singing. But they were not human voices. They were something else. Do-hyun hid behind a large tree. He looked out carefully. What he saw made his heart stop. There were beings walking through the forest. They looked almost human, but not quite. They were tall, taller than any human woman he had ever seen. Their skin was silver, shining softly in the fading light. They had long white hair that moved like water. Their eyes were large and completely black, like deep pools of ink. They were all female, every single one of them. They wore armor made of something that looked like glass or crystal. They carried long weapons that glowed with blue light. There were 6 of them. They moved through the forest like hunters. They were looking for something. Do-hyun realized with cold fear that they were looking for him. He tried to move back slowly. His foot stepped on a branch. It broke with a loud snap. All 6 beings turned to look at him. Their black eyes found him in the shadows. For a moment, nobody moved. Then they raised their weapons and ran toward him. Do-hyun ran. He ran as fast as his hurt body could go. But they were faster. Much faster. One of them appeared in front of him suddenly. He tried to turn, but another was there. They surrounded him in seconds. The tallest one stepped forward. She had marks on her crystal armor that looked important. She was their leader. She spoke words he could not understand. Her voice was beautiful, but her tone was commanding. Do-hyun raised his hand slowly. He did not reach for his weapon. He knew he could not win this fight. The leader spoke again. She seemed to be asking a question. When he did not answer, she looked confused. She turned to the others and said something. They all started talking at once in their strange musical language. One of the younger ones moved closer to him. She was shorter than the others, though still taller than Do-hyun. She had curious eyes. She reached out her silver hand toward his face. Do-hyun held very still. Her fingers touched his cheek. She felt his skin, his rough beard, the shape of his jaw. Then she made a sound of shock and pulled her hand back fast. She spoke quickly to the others. She sounded scared. The leader came closer now. She looked at Do-hyun with new interest. She walked around him slowly, studying him like he was a strange animal. She touched his shoulder, his arm, his chest. Each time she touched him, her eyes grew wider. Do-hyun did not know what was happening. Why were they so surprised by him? He was just a man, just a human soldier. The leader gave an order. Two of the warriors grabbed Do-hyun's arms. They tied his hands together with glowing rope. It did not hurt, but he could not break it. They started walking, pulling him along with them. He had no choice but to follow Dot as they walked through the purple forest. The young one who had touched his face kept looking back at him. Her name was Hana, though he did not know that yet. She could not stop staring at him. She had heard stories when she was young. Old tales about the divided ones. Creatures that came in two forms, male and female. Her teachers had said these stories were myths, lies, impossible things. But now she was looking at one. She was sure of it. This creature was like them, but also completely different. His body was shaped wrong. His skin was too dark, too rough. His face had hair growing on it. And his smell. His smell was like nothing she had ever known. The Valori had no males. They had never had males. They made children alone, each daughter a copy of her mother. The idea of a male was like the idea of magic. It was something from children's stories, but this thing walking beside her was real. She had touched it. She had felt its strange warm skin. Hana did not know if she should be excited or terrified. Maybe both. They reached their outpost as the suns finished the setting. The sky turned dark and strange stars came out. Do-hyun looked up at those unfamiliar stars and wondered if he would ever see Earth again. He wondered if he would even survive. The night. The leader, whose name was Yuna, pushed him through the entrance of a structure that seemed to be alive. It was made of something like coral, glowing soft blue and green. Inside, more of the silver-skinned females waited. They all stared at Do-hyun. They all made sounds of shock and wonder. He was the first male any of them had ever seen. And they had no idea what to do with him. They kept Do-hyun in a room with walls that glowed. There was no door that he could see. The walls simply opened and closed when the silver women came and went. He sat on the floor with his hands still tied, watching and waiting. Many of them came to look at him. They stood at a safe distance and whispered to each other. Some looked scared. Some looked curious. A few looked at him like he was a dangerous animal that might bite. Do-hyun tried to speak to them. He said hello in every language he knew. Korean, English, Chinese, Spanish. They did not understand any of it. They just tilted their heads and listened to his strange sounds. Food came eventually. A young warrior brought him a bowl of something that looked like glowing fruit. She put it down far from him and ran away fast. He was hungry, so he ate it. It tasted sweet and strange, but it did not make him sick. Time passed. He could not tell how much. There were no windows in his cell. Then the wall opened and someone important came in. She was old. Do-hyun could tell this even though her silver skin was smooth and perfect. Something in her eyes showed great age. She had seen many things. She had lived many years. The other warriors bowed low when she entered. This was Elder Soman. She was the commander of this outpost, and one of the oldest living Valori. She walked slowly toward Do-hyun. She was not afraid of him like the others. She looked at him with calm intelligence. She carried a small device in her hand. She pointed it at him and pressed something. The device made soft sounds. Light flickered across its surface. Soman looked at the readings and her eyes narrowed. She pressed more buttons. The device made unhappy sounds, like it was confused. She spoke to the warriors behind her. Her voice was calm, but Do-hyun heard concern in it. Something was wrong with their readings. Something about him did not make sense to their machines. So-min gave an order. Several warriors came forward. They grabbed Do-hyun and lifted him to his feet. They moved him to the center of the room, where a circle was drawn on the floor. More devices were brought. They pointed lights at him from all directions. They scanned him with beams of energy. Through all of this, their machines kept making confused sounds. Nothing they tried seemed to work. So-min spoke again. This time, her voice was firm, commanding. Two warriors approached Do-hyun. They grabbed his torn uniform shirt. They started to pull at it. Do-hyun understood now. They wanted to examine him directly. They wanted to see what was under his clothes. He pulled back hard. "No," he said firmly. "Stop." The warriors did not understand his words, but they understood his resistance. They pulled harder. Do-hyun fought back. He twisted and turned, trying to break free from their grip. More warriors joined in. 4 of them held his arms. 2 more grabbed his legs. Even with 6 warriors holding him, Do-hyun kept fighting. The Valori were amazed. This small creature was incredibly strong. He should not have been able to resist even one of them. But he was fighting all 6 with fierce determination. Yuna stepped forward and gave a command. The warriors stopped pulling. They held Do-hyun still, but did not try to remove more clothing. Someone watched all of this with great interest. She was starting to understand something. She approached Do-hyun slowly. She pointed to his torn shirt. Then she pointed to her own crystal armor. She touched her armor and made a questioning sound. Do-hyun was breathing hard. He was scared and angry, but he saw that she was trying to communicate. She was asking about his clothes. He pointed to his shirt. "Clothes," he said. "My clothes." So-min repeated the sound. "Clothes." She touched his shirt gently. Then she touched his bare arm where the sleeve had been torn away. She felt the difference. The fabric. The skin. She was learning. So-min turned to her warriors and spoke quickly. Do-hyun did not understand the words, but he saw their faces change. They looked embarrassed. They looked confused. The young warrior Hannah spoke up. She asked So-min a question. So-min answered slowly, like she was explaining something difficult. She pointed to Do-hyun's clothes. She pointed to his skin. She made gestures that seemed to mean separate or different. Understanding spread through the room. The clothes were not part of him. They were something he wore by choice. Like their armor, but different. More personal. More important somehow. So-min turned back to Do-hyun. She bowed her head slightly. It looked like an apology. Then she held up her device again. She pressed buttons and strange sounds came out. After a moment, a mechanical voice spoke words Do-hyun could understand. "We did not know. We thought covering was damage. We thought it was dead skin or sickness." Do-hyun stared at the translation device. They could communicate now. "My clothes are not part of my body," he said slowly. "They are something I choose to wear. To protect myself. To cover myself." So-min listened to her device translate his words. She nodded slowly. "You are ashamed of your form?" The device asked for her. Do-hyun shook his head. "No, not ashamed. But my body is mine. I choose who sees it. I choose when to show it. It belongs to me." This answer confused the Valori greatly. They whispered to each other. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Hannah stepped forward. She spoke and the device translated. "Among our people, bodies belong to the collective. To all of us. We share everything. The idea that a body belongs only to one person is strange to us." Do-hyun looked at all the silver faces staring at him. He was beginning to understand. These beings lived very differently from humans. Privacy meant nothing to them. Individual ownership of one's own body was a foreign concept. "Where I come from," he said carefully, "every person owns themselves. Our bodies, our thoughts, our choices. They are ours alone. That is what makes us free." Somin listened to the translation. Her old eyes studied Do-yoon with new respect. This creature was not just strange in body. He was strange in mind, too. His people thought in ways the Valori had never imagined. She gave orders. The warriors untied Do-yoon's hands. They brought him a chair to sit on. They brought more food and clean water. Somin sat across from him. She held the translation device between them. "I am Elder Somin," she said through the device. "I command this place. I have many questions for you." "I am Sergeant Park Do-yoon," he replied. "I am a soldier. I also have many questions." Somin almost smiled. "Then we will trade. One question for one question. This is fair, yes?" Do-yoon nodded. "This is fair." And so they began to talk. It was slow and difficult. The translation device made mistakes sometimes. They had to repeat things many times, but with each question and answer, understanding grew. Somin learned that Do-yoon came from a planet called Earth. She learned that his species had two forms, male and female. She learned that he was the male form. She learned that humans needed both forms to make children. Do-yoon learned that the Valori had only one form. He learned that they made daughters without males, each child born from one mother alone. He learned that they had never met any species with two forms before. "Our old stories speak of divided ones," someone explained. "Beings that come in two shapes. We thought these were myths. Tales to scare children. Or stories of gods." "I am not a god," Do-yoon said. "I am just a man." Somin looked at him for a long moment. "To us, you are impossible. Yet here you sit. Impossible things sometimes become real." Outside the glowing walls, Hannah stood listening. She had been assigned to watch the prisoner. But she was doing more than watching. She was learning. This strange creature called himself man. He came from a world where beings owned themselves. He had fought 6 warriors to protect something as simple as clothing. Hana did not understand him, but she wanted to. Very much. She did not know that this wanting would change everything. Days passed and became weeks. Do-yoon was no longer kept in the glowing cell. They gave him a small room of his own. It was simple but comfortable. The walls still had no doors, but he was allowed to ask them to open whenever he wanted. He was still a prisoner in some ways. He could not leave the outpost. Warriors watched him always. But he was treated well. They fed him good food. They gave him new clothes to replace his torn uniform. They let him walk around and see things. Hannah was assigned to be his keeper. She followed him everywhere. At first, she was silent and nervous. But slowly she began to talk to him. Her translation device hung around her neck on a silver chain. She was young by Valori standards, only 80 years old. In human years, she would have been like someone in their early 20s. She was curious about everything. She asked Do-yoon 100 questions every day. Why does hair grow on your face? What does your world look like? Do all males fight like you? Why do you sleep with your eyes closed? Do-yoon answered her questions patiently. In return, he asked his own questions about the Valori. He learned that they were a warrior species. For hundreds of years, they had been fighting a terrible enemy called the Garth. The Garth were not like the Valori or humans. They were a hive mind. Millions of creatures controlled by one great intelligence. They wanted to consume everything in their path. The war goes badly for us, Hana admitted one evening. They were sitting on a balcony, looking out at the purple forest. 2 moons hung in the sky, one blue and one green. Each year we lose more sisters, Each year the Gorath take more worlds. Why are you losing? Do-hyun asked. Hana was quiet for a moment. We do not make children fast enough. A Valori mother can only have one daughter every 50 years. The Gorath make thousands of soldiers every day. They drown us in numbers. Do-hyun understood. It was simple math. No matter how good the Valori warriors were, they could not win against endless enemies. Humans have the same problem sometimes, he said. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the smartest. But we survive. How? Do-hyun smiled slightly. We refuse to die. When things are impossible, we do them anyway. We fight when we should run. We build when we should hide. We are very stubborn. Hana made a sound that might have been a laugh. Stubborn. Yes, I have seen this in you. As the weeks passed, Do-hyun met more of the Valori. He met warriors who wanted to test his strength in friendly combat. He met scientists who wanted to study his biology. He met children who had never seen anything like him. The children were the most honest. They touched his rough skin and giggled. They pulled gently at his hair and asked why it was so dark. They were not afraid of him at all. You are good with the young ones, someone observed one day. She had been watching him play with a group of Valori children. I like children, Do-hyun said. They see clearly. They do not judge. Human males care for children? Soman sounded surprised. Of course. Fathers love their children. They protect them. They teach them. They would die for them. This idea seemed to shake Soman deeply. In Valori society, children belong to everyone. The idea of a specific parent dying specifically for their own child was both strange and moving. Your species is more complex than I first thought, she said. One night, everything changed. Do-hyun was sleeping in his room when alarms started screaming. Red light flashed everywhere. He heard running feet and shouting voices. Hana burst through his wall. Come, she said urgently. Attack, Gorath scouts. Do-hyun did not hesitate. He followed her into the chaos. The outpost was under assault. Dozens of Gorath creatures had somehow gotten past the outer defenses. They were horrible things. Their bodies were like giant insects mixed with nightmares. Multiple legs, snapping claws, eyes that glowed with hungry intelligence. Valori warriors were fighting them everywhere. Crystal weapons flashed. Gorath screamed their terrible screaming. Do-hyun looked for a weapon. He found a fallen warrior's lance. He picked it up. It was not designed for human hands, but he made it work. A Gorath saw him and charged. It was fast, faster than anything that big should be. Its claws reached for his throat. Do-hyun moved on instinct. Years of combat training took over. He ducked under the claws and thrust the lance upward. The weapon punched through the Gorath's chest. The creature made a bubbling sound and fell. More came. Do-hyun fought them. He was not as graceful as the Valori warriors. He was not as strong or as fast, but he was brutal and efficient. He had trained for war his whole adult life. Hana fought beside him. She was amazing to watch. Her lance moved like light itself, cutting through enemies like water. But there were too many Gorath. They kept coming and coming. A large Gorath broke through their line. It ran straight at Hana from behind. She did not see it coming. Do-hyun saw. He did not think. He simply moved. He threw himself between Hana and the Gorath. The creature's claw hit him across the back. Pain exploded through his body. He fell, but his lance found the Gorath's throat first. The creature died on top of him. Hana turned and saw. She screamed something in her language. She pulled the dead Gorath off Do-hyun. She saw the blood pouring from his back. No, she said in broken human speech. No, no. The battle ended soon after. The Gorath scouts were all dead. But the victory felt hollow. Many Valori were wounded. 3 were dead, and Doyen lay bleeding on the ground. They carried him to the medical chamber. Valori healers worked on him through the night. Their medicine was advanced, but his body was strange to them. They had to learn how to heal him while healing him. Hana refused to leave his side. She sat next to his bed for hours. She held his hand even though she had been taught that such touching was improper. When Doyen finally woke up, Hana was still there. "You are stupid," she said. Her translation device barely kept up with her angry words. "Very stupid. You could have died." "You were in danger," Doyen said weakly. "I could not let you die. Why? Why risk yourself for me? You do not even know me. I am your keeper, your guard. Why would you die for me?" Do-hyun looked at her with tired eyes. "You gave me water when I was thirsty. You talked to me when I was alone. You showed me kindness when you did not have to. That made you my people." Hana did not understand. "Your people? But I am Valori. You are human. We are different species. That does not matter. Kindness makes family. That is what humans believe." Hana was silent for a long time. She looked at this strange creature who had almost died for her, who had almost died for someone he had known only weeks, who had almost died for someone who had helped imprison him. "Humans are very strange," she finally said. "Yes," Doyen agreed. "We are." Hana did not let go of his hand. She stayed with him until he fell asleep again. Outside, Elder Somin watched through a window. She had seen everything. The battle, the sacrifice, the conversation after. She was beginning to think that these humans might change everything. If they could be reached, if they would come. Do-hyun healed slowly. The Valori medicine was good, but his body was still strange to it. Hana visited him every day. She brought him food. She told him stories about her people. She learned more human words, so she did not always need the translation device. One day, Elder Somin came to his room. She looked serious, more serious than usual. "I must ask you something," she said. "Something important?" Do-hyun sat up carefully. His back still hurt, but he could move now. "Ask. Your people, the humans, could they be reached? Could they hear a message from here?" Do-hyun's heart beat faster. He had dreamed of contacting Earth. He had thought about it every day since his crash. "Maybe, if I could get to a strong communication array. If the signal could reach far enough, maybe. We have such an array. It connects to our homeworld. From there, signals can travel very far." "Why are you telling me this?" Somin sat down across from him. She looked old in that moment, tired, worried. "I watched you fight the Gorth. I watched you bleed for my people. You had no reason to help us. We captured you. We frightened you. We tried to strip your clothes. But still you fought for us. The Gorth were the enemy. I fight enemies. It is what soldiers do." "No." Somin shook her head. "It is more than that. You did not just fight. You threw yourself in front of a blow meant for Hana. You were ready to die for a stranger. That is not ordinary." Do-hyun was quiet. He did not know what to say. "I have been alive for 900 years, Somin continued. I have seen many things. I have watched my people slowly lose a war we cannot win. Every year, fewer children. Every year, more dead. I had accepted that we would eventually fall." She leaned forward. Her black eyes were intense. "But you make me hope. If there are more like you, if your people are all like you, maybe things could be different. What are you asking me to do?" "Send a message. Tell your people about us. Ask them to come." Do-hyun stared at her. "Your leaders, your government, will they agree to this?" "No." Someone's voice was flat. "They will not. The High Council is proud. They do not trust outsiders. They would never ask for help from unknown species. Then you would be breaking your own laws. You could be punished. Yes, I could be executed. Somin said this calmly, like she was discussing the weather. But I am old. I have lived long enough. If my death brings help to my people, it is a good trait. Do-hyun looked at this ancient warrior. She was willing to die for a chance. Just a chance. She was willing to risk everything on hope. Okay, he said. I will send the message. They planned carefully. The communication array was far from the outpost. They would need to travel to the main relay station near the homeworld. Somin would take Do-hyun there herself. Hana insisted on coming. He is my responsibility, she said. Where he goes, I go. They left at night, when few were watching. Somin had a small ship. It was fast but not armed. They flew through space, past the 2 moons, past the gas giant that the moon orbited, out into deeper darkness. The journey took 5 days. During that time, Do-hyun worked on his message. He wrote and rewrote it many times. It had to be perfect. It had to convince Earth to send help. Hannah watched him work. She saw how hard he concentrated. She saw how much he cared. Do you think they will come? She asked. Your people? Do-hyun put down his writing tool. I do not know. Humans are complicated. Sometimes we do great things. Sometimes we fail. But I have to try. What will you say to them? He showed her the message. It was simple. He gave his name and rank. He explained what had happened to him. He described the Valori. He described the Gorath. He described the war. At the end, he wrote, They need help. They are worth helping. That is all? Hannah seemed surprised. You do not beg? You do not promise them things? No, I tell them the truth. I tell them my opinion. The rest is their choice. That is the human way. They reached the relay station. It was a giant structure floating in space, covered in dishes and antennas. Someone used her authority to get them inside. The workers then knew her and respected her. They did not ask too many questions. Do-hyun sat at the communication console. He took a deep breath. Then he began his transmission. This is Sergeant Park Do-hyun, United Earth Defense Corps, service number 7-7-4-2-9. I am alive. My shuttle was shot down over the moon called Valora 9. I have made contact with a species called the Valori. He paused, then continued. The Valori are at war with a hostile species called the Gorath. The Gorath are hive mind. They want to consume everything. The Valori have been fighting alone for centuries. They are losing. Another pause. The Valori captured me. They did not know what I was. They had never seen a human. They had never seen a male. But they did not hurt me. They were curious, not cruel. They made mistakes, but they learned. They treated me with respect once they understood. He thought of Hana. He thought of Somin. He thought of the children who had played with him. They are good people. Different from us, but good. They deserve to survive. They deserve to win their war. His voice grew stronger. I am asking Earth to consider alliance. The Valori have technology we do not have. They have knowledge of this part of space. In return, we can offer them military support, numbers, strategy. We can help them fight. He ended with the most important part. The Valori need help. They are worth helping. I believe this with all my heart. Coordinates to follow. Do-hyun out. The message was sent. It would travel through space at incredible speeds. It would reach Earth in weeks instead of years, thanks to Valori relay technology. But now they had a problem. Someone had seen them. Someone had reported them. When they tried to leave the relay station, Valori warships were waiting. Soldiers boarded their small ship. They were not gentle. They bound Summon's hands. They treated her like a criminal. "You are under arrest," the lead soldier said. "By order of the High Council. You have committed treason by allowing alien communication without permission." Somin did not resist. She had expected this. "I did what I had to do. The High Council will decide your fate." And the fate of the alien. They were taken to the homeworld. The journey took 3 more days. During that time, they were kept in cells. They were not allowed to speak to each other. Da-Hyun sat in his cell and worried. Not for himself. He was a soldier. He had accepted death long ago. He worried for Somin, who had risked everything to help him. He worried for Hana, who would be punished for following them. He worried that his message would mean nothing, that Earth would ignore it, that the Valori would execute him before help could arrive. But mostly he hoped. He hoped that his people would listen. He hoped that they would understand. He hoped that humanity would do what it did best, come to the rescue. The homeworld was beautiful and terrible. Great cities rose from purple seas. Ships filled the sky like flocks of silver birds. Millions of Valori lived here, all of them female, all of them silver-skinned and black-eyed. They were taken to the council chamber. It was an enormous room, filled with light and sound. Thousands of Valori watched from rising seats. At the center, on high thrones, sat the 7 members of the High Council. They looked down at the prisoners with cold, judging eyes. The trial was about to begin, and Do-Yoon had no idea if any of them would survive it. The High Council chamber was silent. Thousands of Valori watched as Somin stood before the 7 leaders. Her hands were bound. Her head was high. "Elder Somin," the chief counselor said. Her name was Ji-woo, and she was the oldest Valori alive. Over 2,000 years had passed since her birth. "You stand accused of treason. You allowed an alien creature to send a message to unknown beings. You did this without permission, without consultation. You have potentially doomed us all." Somin nodded slowly. "I did these things. I do not deny them. Why?" Counselor Ji-woo demanded. "Why would you betray your own people?" "I did not betray them. I tried to save them." The crowd murmured. Some sounded angry. Some sounded confused. Somin continued. "For 900 years, I have served the Valori. For 500 of those years, I have watched us lose the war against the Gorath. Every decade, we grow weaker. Every century, we lose more territory. At our current rate, we will be extinct in 300 years. These are facts we know," another counselor said impatiently. "Yes, facts we know, but choose to ignore. Facts we hide behind pride and tradition. We tell ourselves that we are strong, that we will find a way. But we are lying. We are dying, and we are too proud to ask for help." Somin pointed at Do-Yen, who stood nearby in his own bonds. "This creature, this human, he came from the sky alone and afraid. We captured him. We frightened him. We tried to examine him like an animal. But when the Gorath attacked our outpost, he fought beside us. He took a wound meant for one of our warriors. He was willing to die for people who had treated him as a prisoner." She looked around the chamber at all the watching faces. "His people have a saying, kindness makes family. He decided we were his family because we showed him small kindnesses. Water when he was thirsty. Food when he was hungry. Conversation when he was alone. That is all it took for him to risk his life for us." Someone's voice grew stronger. "If one human can do this, what might many humans do? If their species values loyalty and sacrifice the way this one does, they could be the allies we desperately need. That is why I let him send his message. Not to betray our people. To save them." The chamber was completely silent. Even Counselor Ji-woo seemed moved. "You speak well," Ji-woo finally said. But words are easy. Actions have consequences. The message is sent. Unknown beings may already be coming. What if they are hostile? What if you have brought destruction to us? Then I will deserve death. But I do not think they will be hostile. Based on what? One single creature? Soman smiled slightly. Based on hope. Something the Valori have forgotten how to feel. Before anyone could respond, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber. Voices shouted in confusion and fear. A young officer ran into the chamber. Counselors. Ships approaching. Unknown design. They came out of fold space just outside our system. Panic spread through the crowd. This was their greatest fear come true. Unknown aliens arriving because of Summon's actions. How many ships? Counselor Jiwoo demanded. The officer looked at her data device. Her face went pale. Over 200. 200 warships. More than enough to destroy the entire homeworld. The Valori military was spread across many systems fighting the Gorath. They had maybe 50 ships here. We are doomed, someone whispered. But Do-hyun was smiling. They came, he said softly. They actually came. The lead ship in the human fleet was called the UEDN Horizon. It was massive, half a kilometer long, bristling with weapons and sensors. On its bridge stood Admiral Choi My-rae. She was a small woman with short gray hair and eyes like steel. She had commanded fleets for 30 years. She had fought in 3 wars. She was considered the best tactical mind in the United Earth Navy, and she was very curious about the Valori. Open communication channel, she ordered. All frequencies. Let them know we come in peace. A communication officer sent the message. It was simple. This is Admiral Choi My-rae of the United Earth Navy. We received Sergeant Park Do-hyun's message. We come in peace, with hopes for friendship and alliance. Please respond. In the council chamber, the message was received. Translation devices worked quickly to convert the alien sounds into Valori language. The counselors looked at each other in shock. These beings had come not to attack, but to help? It seemed impossible. Respond, Counselor Jiwoo ordered. Tell them we will meet. But carefully. Send only a small group. The meeting took place on a neutral station between the 2 fleets. Admiral My-rae brought 10 officers with her. Counselor Jiwoo brought 10 of her own. Do-hyun was there too, finally free of his bonds. He had been allowed to join the meeting as a translator and advisor. When the 2 groups met face to face, there was a long moment of silence. The Valori stared at the humans. The humans stared back. Then Admiral My-rae did something unexpected. She bowed. A deep, respectful bow, the kind humans gave to honored elders. Thank you for keeping our soldier alive, she said through a translation device. Thank you for treating him well. We are in your debt. Counselor Jiwoo was surprised. She had expected demands, threats, negotiations from a position of power. Instead, she received gratitude. Your soldier, Jiwoo said carefully, fought for us when he did not have to. He bled for people who were not his own. We should be thanking you for sending such a man. Admiral My-rae smiled. Sergeant Park is a good example of humanity. But he is not unusual. Our species places great value on protecting others. Even strangers. Even former enemies. Why? Jiwoo asked. It was the same question Hana had asked Do-hyun. Why help those who are not your people? Admiral My-rae thought for a moment. Because today's stranger might be tomorrow's friend. Because suffering is wrong, no matter who suffers. Because when we lift others up, we lift ourselves as well. She looked at Counselor Jiwoo with steady eyes. We know about your war with the Gorath. We know you are losing. We want to help. Not because we want something from you. Not because we want to control you. but because you need help, and we can give it. Counselor Jiwoo felt something she had not felt in centuries. Hope. Real, burning hope. What do you want in return? Friendship. Knowledge. The chance to learn from you as you learn from us. And maybe someday, when humanity needs help, you will remember this day. Jiwoo looked at the human admiral. Then she looked at Doyeon, who stood quietly nearby. Then she looked at Soman, who had risked everything for this moment. I think, Jiwoo said slowly, we have much to discuss. The negotiations took months. But in the end, an alliance was formed. Humanity would provide ships, soldiers, and strategic knowledge. The Valori would provide advanced biotechnology, star maps, and centuries of intelligence about the GORATH. Together, they began planning the first joint offensive. Doyeon was promoted to lieutenant and made official liaison between the two species. He spent his days translating, explaining, and helping humans and Valori understand each other. Hana remained by his side. She was assigned to work with the human military, learning their ways, teaching them hers. She and Doyeon became a team. 6 months after the alliance was signed, they stood together on a balcony overlooking the Valori capital. Below them, human and Valori soldiers trained together. The sight would have been impossible a year ago. When we first found you, Hana said, I thought you were broken, incomplete, half a being. Doyeon looked at her. And now? She watched a human sergeant teaching Valori warriors hand-to-hand combat. She watched a Valori scientist showing human engineers new technology. She watched two species learning to be one. Now, I think perhaps we were the ones who were incomplete. We just did not know what we were missing. Doyeon smiled. Humanity has a saying. It takes two to make a whole. Your species has strange mathematics. Yes, he laughed. But it works. Hana touched his arm. Not with curiosity anymore. With familiarity. With affection. With something that might have been love, if the Valori had a word for it. Thank you, she said. For falling from the sky. For fighting for us. For bringing your people to us. Thank you, he replied, for giving me water when I was thirsty. They stood together as the two suns set. Below them, the future was being built. It would not be easy. The war with the Gorath was far from over. Many battles waited ahead. Many would die. But for the first time in centuries, the Valori had hoped. And humanity had done what it did best. They had answered a call for help. They had come to the rescue. They had found a stranger in the dark and made them family, because that was what humans did. That was who they were, and the galaxy was about to learn it.